Joan Powell, and I'm an MDS patient advocate. I want to tell you about my journey with this disease called myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a rare form of cancer. It's a bone marrow disease that's in the family of cancer. There's no cure for my disease, but there is treatment unless I have a bone marrow transplant. And at this junction in my journey, or I would say at the train stop, I'm not a candidate to get off the train to have this operation. So let me begin with my journey. On Halloween back in 2014, it was in October, I had trick-or-treaters coming to my door. And then I got a phone call from my, at the time, hematologist. And she says, Joan, we have the results of your test, which was a bone biopsy. She says, you have a disease called MDS. And I said, multiple sclerosis? And she said, no, it's called myelodysplastic syndrome. She said, get a pencil and write it down. So I went and grabbed a pencil. And I said, well, thank God I don't have cancer. And she said, hold on. It's a pre-leukemia disease, a smoldering cancer, which could turn into leukemia or cancer if it's not treated. And in your case, it is treated. So she said, do not get on the internet, Joan. She said, you're coming to see me tomorrow and I'll explain everything. Well, I went and I turned off the lights because I didn't want to see any more trick-or-treaters. I grabbed an old stuffed animal that I had been given years ago, and I went to bed in my clothes and clung it. Because you know what I did? Clung to it, I should say. I went on the internet and found Robin Roberts of Good Morning America. Once again, as I said, pre-leukemia, cancer, and so on. So my disease, myelodysplastic syndrome, is based on my red blood cell counts. It's a rare form of anemia whereby your red cells, in this case mine, are constantly going down. So every month I had to go into the hospital for a blood transfusion, and they would give me two packs or pints of blood. And that was my process, along with taking injections in my stomach to help stimulate my bone marrow. I've been on various medications throughout the years, but in the last year and a half, I've been on a medication called Lubricant or Reblozyl, which extends my blood transfusions to every 3 months. And that has been fantastic because, as I said before, I was going every month, and then I went every 2 months or every 6 months, and I'm sorry, every 6 weeks. But finally, I've been stable for the last year and not having to have blood transfusions, which take place at the hospital. It's a day procedure. Since my new normal, I call it, I didn't know that much about it. So I started doing internet investigations, and then something said, well, maybe you should join an organization. So I joined the AAMDS International Foundation. I started going to their conferences. I started going to other conferences, and I was just soaking up like a sponge any information that I could have about my disease because it was so rare. And people would say to me, I've never heard of that disease. And they said, you look good. What's your problem? I said, it's an invisible disease. The red cells come out, but they're defective and they have no longevity. So the first conference that I went to, which was in San Diego, and it wasn't AAMDS, it was just the hospital conference. I think it was at Scripps. Someone asked in the audience, how do we get this? And the oncologist, I guess he was trying to be funny, he said, you all just have bad luck. I didn't think it was funny. So that's what began my desire to become a patient advocate. I wanted to find out as much as I could, and I wanted to be a support to others. So I started attending conferences. I was attending conferences for many MDS foundations. I became a spokesperson. I've been at various research projects. I've been in several magazines, Cure magazines, and I've been a spokesperson. I've been to the steps of Capitol Hill, not only as a MDS patient, but a patient advocate for healthcare rights and the cost of our medication, which is very expensive. So as I share my journey with people, I tell them it's based on the movie The Shawshank Redemption with Morgan Freeman, and I forget the other gentleman. And he says to, the other gentleman says to Morgan, you can either get busy living or get busy dying, because I felt like MDS was my life sentence. And then he said, I choose to get busy. And his name was Andy. I choose to get busy living, Red. And that's been my theme throughout. No matter what goes on, I do have highs and lows. It's a roller coaster ride having MDS. But I always have the motto, I want to have the best quality of life I'm going to have. So I continue to get busy living. And that's my journey. Has really opened my eyes to various opportunities out there. I'm on a fixed income, so financially they've been a support. They've been a support in referencing to various conferences. They've also asked me, they've interviewed me at various times to share my story, and I've got to meet other people. And recently, within for the first of the year, I think it was December, they even honored me by asking me to become a MDS Support Group Facilitator. So I basically facilitate the MDS Support Group. But anytime I contact Lee Clark, she's always been there for me, and other members also have been there for me over the years. I belong to a support group here in Southern California, in Carlsbad, and I've been in that group for about three years. And I said to myself, someday maybe I'll become a facilitator, not thinking that they were going to ask me. But it's very informative. I let everyone share their story. I share my story, and I always have an infomercial at all my meetings. Like, for example, I tell them, because we have a compromised immune system in the state that I live, you can get a discount for your PICO, your electric, and your gas bill. And I've also shared with them, you even qualify for a disability sticker or plaque that you could use. So whatever information that I have received or I hear about, I share it not only with this support group, but any support group that I'm involved with. Also, what they call a first connection person with another organization regarding cancer. And I give them information all the time about different websites. I include most definitely the AAMDS International Foundation. But whatever information that I can receive, I share it, be it in a support group or if I have a one-on-one conversation with a person that's basically diagnosed. I also let them know it's a roller coaster, this disease that we have. You're going to have moments where you're just like, oh, okay, I can handle this. And then you're going to have days where you go to your bath, you go in your shower, and you just start crying. Because you can't really make definite plans. For example, if I want to go on a vacation, I want to make sure that my blood count is high enough so I can fly. Or with this, I hate to say it, with this COVID-19 situation, this pandemic, it really has done a toll on a lot of people with compromised immune systems. So you have to find little ways in order to bring cheer, because you have to be very careful where you go. For example, I go to the grocery stores and my sons look at me like I'm crazy. Or when I tell them, they're not here except for today, one's on vacation. But I tell them, I go to a grocery store and Mom, it's 6:30 in the morning. Well, I don't want to be around a lot of people because not everybody's vaccinated. Or if I go out to eat at a restaurant, 9 times out of 10, I'm eating outside. I haven't really traveled that much since about a year ago. Off and on, I'll do little things, but to travel long distance on a plane, I haven't done that in a while. When I first was diagnosed, I felt so alone because I didn't know anybody with MDS. So what I started to do was I started going to conferences and meeting people and exchanging information, phone numbers and things like that. And that's the way I was able to somewhat branch out and meet other people that could assist me. But a lot of them had prior transplant. But I was looking for someone that was at the very, very beginning stages, as you say, just like me. And then usually in my support groups, I go around, there's a mixture of people, some that have had transplants, some that are at the beginning, some like that have been diagnosed for years. So everyone can share their story. And if I don't know something, I'll tell them I'll get back to them, or I'll have them refer to the AAMDS International Foundation for answers or support. But I'm down to earth with it. I said, yeah, some days, yeah, I make them laugh. I said, yeah, I go and I take a shower and I'm so tired I have to go back to bed for about 15 minutes before I can get up and get dressed. That's usually when my count is really, really low. Or sometimes I'll get up and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And I have to sit down. Or like the other day, my count's low. And as I said, my son is visiting me. I went to the supermarket and I'm pushing the cart around and I got a few items and I'm like, I got to go outside and sit. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm exhausted. He goes, really, Mom? I said, yeah, just little things like that make a difference when you have this disease. I said, people don't understand. You get a shortness of breath. You can't catch your breath. You need a referral to see a therapist, be it a social worker, a life coach, or a psychiatrist, because when someone tells you have your disease is not curable, you're like looking at them like, what? And then you get depressed. You're a roller coaster. You get depressed. You get angry. I remember I had told my family about the cost of the medication, and I said, it's so expensive, and they're like, they said, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm looking at my family. You should be saying, what can we do for you? Some people, you tell them about the disease, they don't even want to finish the conversation. Oh, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. So I think if you had someone that you could relate to as a counselor, that you could, maybe a few sessions just to deal with that, and also be assigned an MDS patient that you could have a conversation with, or also what I do now sometimes is refer them to the support group if I'm initially talking with them, because a lot of answers can be done and having conversation in the support group.